Well, thank you, Paula, for inviting me, and thank you all for spending some of your day to hear a little bit about what's going on with intramural funding in the Office of DRI. So today I have mainly, let's see if I can get this to, there we go. Three main kind of items or topics that I'd like to cover to hopefully clear up any questions. Also for those of you who have not yet had the opportunity to jump in and look at what the opportunities in the RFAs look like, we'll spend a little time looking at that. Just give you a little bit of guidance on navigating that website, the process, the timelines, et cetera. So the first thing we'll talk about are the actual RFAs themselves. We'll walk through them quickly and just introduce them conceptually, talk a little bit about some of the requirements for applying, and then we'll talk about the review criteria. We'll talk also about the funding cycles that we're planning for these RFAs moving forward. So that's a set kind of cycle that we'll be going through annually, when to apply, and then what that proposal review process actually looks like. And then lastly, we'll spend some time talking about one of the critical pieces of your application is writing your SMART goals. Those are a part of the evaluation. So we'll talk about how we've kind of rethought the SMART goal process, writing those, and how to use the template that we've designed for facilitating that piece of the application. All right, so we'll start just by walking through the intramural programs themselves, the application process, and review criteria. So this is just a screen grab from the main landing page for REAP, so Research Enhancement and Assistance Program. For those who aren't familiar, the shorthand we call this office is REAP, R-E-A-P. And there's a lot of information on this web page and on this site in general to help investigators look a little deeper into potential funding opportunities. This is where you can find information about foundations, if there's any limited submissions that are being posted or currently available. But you'll see a link here for intramural funding. We're going to focus on this one for most of today. So with this link, it will bring you to a listing of the award programs. So DRI has kind of reimagined the intramural funding program a bit to hopefully add a bit more diversification, to be more inclusive of different types of research and scholarly activities of a more broad range of faculty and PI eligible staff. So just to look at these, there are 10 now different mechanisms. If you just count here, I think you'll see 8, but there's actually 3 embedded here within this research special interest. So some of these will sound familiar to you, most of them will, some of them are new. So we'll spend a little time talking about those each one by one, just kind of at a very high level. We don't have enough time to dig into the nitty gritty.
I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
I can't see the slide.
You cannot see the slides.
Okay. Are you on Zoom?
Can you see my slides, Paula?
I can see them.
I can see.
Yeah, we can't see anything, either Nicole or slide.
You are on Teams and this is on Zoom, and I sent the Zoom link to everyone this morning.
I can see and I can also hear. The Zoom is working perfectly fine.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, okay.
Go to Zoom.
Hop over to Zoom real quick. Sorry about that. I'll pause for a second, let you guys have a second to get over.
People need to zoom in.
Yeah, it's confusing when those invites automatically drop in those links. I think there's a way to disable it, but I still struggle with that as well.
She's just being nice, but it's okay. I'll take it.
No, I struggle with it, believe me.
Well, and it's just, to me, sometimes it's a lot easier to get a recording from Zoom than I struggle with recording stuff on Teams.
Well, I'm grateful for Zoom usually because I'm just a bit better at sharing screen and things like that with Zoom than I am with Teams. So, all right. So I think maybe we'll go on. Okay. So let me get you guys shrunk again. Okay. So some of these will sound familiar. Some of them will be new. They're different, a little bit of a kind of a deviation from the traditional kind of REAP funding portfolio we've had in the past. So bridge funding, that will sound familiar. We have an award for new or early stage investigators as defined by NIH. We have this research special interest cluster of awards where we've identified some areas of special interest that we'd like to see some, seeded funds go to, which include AI, digital tools, population health, and health disparities and community health. We have a core facility utilization award, so to invest money specifically for using our core facilities. I'll point those out in a second. Pilot research award, so getting a new idea off the ground, something that has not been previously funded. Professional Development Award, Education Workforce Development Award. We'll talk about those two. And then the Interdisciplinary Team Science Award. There's been something like this in the past as well, so that one may seem familiar. I'll demo the website and walk through some of these in just a moment, but I was going to go over first some general themes on what most of the RFAs actually require.
Role play, right? Yeah, the one we just did.
With respect to the application requirements. So this will vary by award. So there is a pretty large asterisk here. So be sure you look deep, carefully at the RFA that you're applying to make sure you're hitting all of the requirements. But in general, this is kind of what a packet will look like for an application. So most of them they all require a cover page, which should include your plan for acquiring extramural funding. So you'll hear this as a recurring theme throughout the presentation. And as we go into look at the website itself, a really clear vision for where this research will go with respect both to the next steps in your science, as well as where specifically you plan to apply to obtain funding for the next steps, is important for the reviewers in the review process. Specific aims page, some of these pages will vary. Specific aims will be one. Research strategy, this will vary as well. The bio sketches, those are traditionally included in these packets. Budget justification, references. SMART goals we'll spend time talking about at the end, and then letters of support from chair and or dean. MPI plan if applicable. So for some of them, like the team science, obviously you'll likely need an MPI plan if you have two at that level. And then as needed, also the vertebrate and human subjects section of the application. So as far as the review criteria, we are using.
Nicole, can I
Yes.
ask you a question? So did we try to have the structure of these to be similar to the new kind of emphasis for the new review criteria at NIH? So these could kind of go right in?
Yes. So the research strategy itself, because of the new review criteria, the PIs are free to structure that in a similar type of way so that it specifically addresses those individual sections. So yes, I'll show you maybe a little bit of that in the next when we demo the site. So the review criteria, again, we're using the new simplified peer review framework. So probably most of you are familiar. There's the two scoring factors or scoreable factors, which include the importance of the research. Essentially, this is kind of a catch-all of significance and innovation. And then factor 2 is rigor and feasibility. This is where the approach is evaluated, which includes the methods, the analytics, and the design itself. And those are scoreable again. And then factor 3 is some of those kind of more yes/no questions, like is the environment, robust enough to do the work? Do they have the resources they need? Does the team have the expertise they need? So less of a scale, more of a yes or no kind of response to those. So this is the variability in the review criteria. There is some variability by award, and it will be in this factor 3 kind of section. So make sure you pay attention. I'll kind of highlight some of those in a second, but pay attention to the specific award, the award specific criteria that are listed here under factor 3, because there may be some additional things that the reviewers are going to be specifically looking for. Okay, so I'm gonna click over quickly to the website, and we'll just give everyone kind of a level set on navigating the website and these award mechanisms. So this is the main landing page for REAP, and this is the buttons that I mentioned earlier. They should be familiar to you now. And here is the link for the intramural funding. That is the awards that I just described. So once you click on that button, we have the intramural funding page. We'll talk about cycles in a second, so I'm just going to scan past that quickly to hop down to the award programs themselves. So this is exactly the screen grab you just saw. And each of these expands to show you the full RFA with the requirements, the description, the application format itself, the criteria for review, etc. So as you'd expect, for example, bridge funding has some additional requirements that aren't necessarily applicable or relevant for the early stage investigator award or a pilot research award. So just pay careful attention to those particular application requirements. So for example, if we look at the Bridge Award, which of course, just to kind of bring everybody on the same page, this award is intended to support full-time faculty who have recently lost their extramural funding. They weren't renewed, or they're in the midst of being renewed, or they have some additional work that needs to be done for moving their program forward. So the ultimate goal, as is stated here, is to ensure continuity in the research of these faculty. And so it's a really powerful way to show support and to keep momentum for faculty who have, because it's just the nature of the business, right? We have times of famine and feast. So that's just the nature. So that's understood. And this is one way that DR is hoping to support faculty in those times when it's cut lean and you have to get through and keep your research moving. So again, application format, this is application specific. So make sure when you're looking, at your RFA that you're paying attention to the details underneath that specific dropdown. And then here's the review criteria. So one thing that this is what I wanted to point out, was that under factor 3, there's a listing of things the reviewers are going to be looking for that are kind of more of that yes, no type of evaluation. And some of these are specific to the specific RFA. So just pay attention to this piece here of section 4 of the RFA. So the award amount is also listed. All of these awards that are shown in the whole portfolio are single year awards. No cost extensions will be considered on a case-by-case basis. And then the allowable and unallowable costs are essentially the same for all of them, except for they're a little bit different, for example, for the professional development award, et cetera. So we'll look at those specifically since those are a little bit different. Okay, so that's just Bridge Award to show an example of what one of these RFAs look like. The new early stage investigator, pretty self-explanatory, but if you are a new or ESI, as defined by NIH, you're eligible for this particular award. So eligibility requirements are shown here, just exactly what I just said. The application and its format are provided. Again, the review criteria with some specifics to the specific announcement. So for this one, again, single year, and you can request up to $50,000. So the Research Special Interest Awards are that cluster of special interests, which include AI digital tools, population health, health disparities, and community health. So this is, if your research falls into one of these categories, this might be a really great place for you to try and get some money to progress your research in these areas. The eligibility requirements here are basic, nothing to really point out. And these will be up to $25,000 each, single year awards. So the Core Facility Utilization Award is the next one on the list. So again, pretty self-explanatory, but this is just hoping to help encourage our faculty to capitalize on some of the resources we do have here locally, which include the research core labs. These links are live, so they'll bring you out to the pages that actually detail the resources themselves. So the research core labs, which include, of course, the genomics core, histology, microscopy, flow, and the preclinical imaging resources. And then DLAM is another shared resource. So this could be an opportunity to capitalize on use of our laboratory animal facilities. And then our high performance computation resources are currently being built out. I'm not positive if they're accessible at this very moment, but I think with a fair amount of confidence that they'll be accessible as a resource for when the application opens, because I know it's very close to being ready. So the scope of this award is, and you can see the application's a little bit more brief here. For example, this does not require SMART goals. So SMART goals are not necessarily an integral piece of every single mechanism here. So just pay attention to that. This is a shorter application. It's a smaller amount of money as well. So I believe that this is up to, again, 12 months, and you can ask for up to $15,000 for core facility work. And then here we have the Pilot Research Award. So coming back up here. So pilot research is intended to support new studies that have not been previously funded. So that's kind of a key piece of the eligibility criteria. And to build them out into sustainable, hopefully, research programs or areas of research interest for that faculty member. So the application format, again, this is all you'll see. Each of these RFAs really are very similar in how they're structured. We tried to harmonize them all so that if you're looking at one or another, they're pretty much the same as far as the formatting. These can be up to $50,000, again, single year. And I think that's about it for this one, for the pilot. So pretty straightforward. The Professional Development Award is one that I think is pretty exciting. It's an opportunity to get some funds to go to a meeting or, go and to a specific training you have your eye on or something along those lines. So this is intended for basically can be applied to essentially any professional development type of activity. You can request, it's a relatively short application format. So just a cover letter, the justification, the budget for what you're doing. You're going to go to this meeting, the registration cost, the hotel, the travel, etc. Letter of support. And then the criteria, you can see the review criteria for this award shifts. It's no longer the NIH review criteria. It doesn't really make sense here. So here we're looking at how is it relevant to your career goals? What's the potential for impact? The clarity and feasibility of your statement and your description of the activity. If the institution is supportive of the activity, and then how the funds are actually being used. So you can request up to $5,000 per year, and that fund actually must be used within the confines of that single year. So two more, Education and Workforce Development Award. So here we have a focus on building a more skilled and adaptable health and biomedical workforce. So these typically are aiming to advance educational initiatives, scale different programs to help align with different workforce needs and goals, and to give faculty tools and experiences to help get external funding for institutional expansion. So they give some pretty good examples of what might fall under this program. So curriculum development, digital learning tools, skill building workshops, micro-credentialing programs, interprofessional training, or any pilot grant that enhances learner readiness or in high demand careers. So eligibility here, it's about the same. PI eligible staff or faculty can apply in good standing. Here's the application format itself. It's similar, but again, without quite the scientific kind of focus of a normal NIH proposal. So there's some slight differences here. And then the criteria for review also is slightly different. So questions around or criteria around relevance to the workforce and our institutional needs and focus, scalability, the impact on the target, whether it's the learners, the faculty, or the community, how clear it's described, etc. You can read into this more if you're interested in this award. And applicants can ask for up to $25,000 for this award category. Again, 1 year. All right, and finally is the Interdisciplinary Team Science Award. This is similar to the Team Science Award that's been offered in the past. So this is really to incentivize more diverse collaboration that kind of bridges between different disciplines to hopefully kind of tackle a question, a research question or a biomedical question from different perspectives. So the this is a means of trying to see here. Yeah, facilitate the major establishment funding. So again, there's a focus on, especially in the review process, of how the applicants envision this research growing beyond the intramural funding. So how sustainable the program might be based off of the data that they plan to collect during this intramural science, team science award. So eligibilities listed here, application format, criteria for review with, again, some of those specific criteria specific to the application. This is up to $75,000 available for this award, also 1 year. And it will, as most of these, the ones that are science-based, experimental-based, data collection-based, it will include SMART goals as one of the requirements. Okay, so I'm going to just stop here and see if there's any burning questions, maybe since we've walked through the website now, just on the awards themselves. Okay, so I'm going to hop back over to my PowerPoint. Are you all seeing my screen okay again?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. All right, great.
So I had a question. I have a new idea and developing a new grant, and also technically it should be like a pilot research award. But if it also involves team and thinking of putting together a RO1 along with a PI from another institution, so can I also apply for the interdisciplinary? Which one should I really apply? Should it be the pilot research or should it be the interdisciplinary award?
Is your collaborator here?
No.
So Caroline, you can correct me, but I believe for the ITS award, the collaborator has to be here. It has to be interdisciplinary within UNT HSC. Is that correct, Caroline? Or I'm not sure who else may be on that could help clarify. I'm almost positive that's the case.
Okay.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay, great. So
Okay.
so I would say the pilot sounds like a good fit for you. I would say that if you did have a collaborator here, you may ask questions about the scope and scale of the research you're planning, right? Because the pilot funds are a bit smaller than the ITS funds, if that makes sense.
So when I write this grant, I mean, should I, for the research plan, should this be just like a abbreviated version of the whole project, or just for 1 year to get some preliminary data,
Right, it is a single year. So you'd want to
Okay.
structure it for what you can accomplish within that year. Yeah. You get a lot of opportunities to say what you want to do once you've accomplished that. So
Mhm.
think about that and
Okay.
make that case compelling. Yeah.
Sounds good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Nicole,
Yeah.
I've got 2 questions in the chat. The first
Okay.
is, do these intramural grants have citizenship requirements?
PI eligibility is really the term we've used. So if we've not even said faculty because some staff are PI eligible depending on the mechanism. So I think it just is going, I think as long as you're PI eligible, then it should be fine.
Okay.
Okay.
Second question, is there any internal funding for publication fees? Many journals require around 5,000
Mhm.
for it.
So
Yeah.
we've talked about this a lot in the division, a mechanism for that. Stay tuned. It's not part of what's here in this portfolio presented today, but I do believe we kind of have our eye on some mechanisms to help support that because the costs are getting crazy and covering that can be challenging. So.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
I thought the team grant mechanism included UNT.
Ah, you're jumping ahead. Spoiler alert.
Oh, sorry, that was another
Yeah,
question.
no, that's great. No, whoever asked it, I was talking to them.
Becky.
We'll talk about that.
Blame
We'll talk
Becky.
about that in a minute. Thank you. Yeah, we'll hit on that in a second. Okay, so this one though, that's a good question. I mean, a good point that Becky's making. For those of you who have already heard, I mean, it's no secret. The email has come out. There is an interdisciplinary team science award that is for UNT Health, UNT Denton collaborations. It's a very specific for faculty between those 2 units. We'll talk about that a bit more later, but the one that's linked here on the REAP website is just like a local intramural for UNT Health only. So we kind of have 2 different types of ITS grants. Okay.
Cool.
Awesome. Okay, so let's move on and talk about the funding cycles and review. So this is pretty self-explanatory. I don't think we need to talk about it a ton. This is we're developing NDRI, we're developing these processes pretty much from scratch. So we've built in some time to hopefully flesh out. I'm not saying we're going to get it perfect the first time, but to flesh out these processes, get the committees in place, et cetera, to conduct these reviews. So this is a timeline that we feel like is feasible for the first year and moving forward. So this is the cycle you can expect. We're going to have 2 cycles per year, a spring and a fall. And if you look specifically at the schematic, and this schematic is available on the website we just previewed, the application open date is provided for each cycle. The due date is provided for each cycle. The review completion date for the 2 levels of a review, which we'll talk about in a minute, are provided. So you've got your specific timeline of dates for each cycle kind of running along the bottom of this schematic. And the overall review process is, of course, identify the RFA that works for you for your research and submit your proposal. So this starts with your idea. There's an administrative review, which is just looking for completeness and eligibility, making sure that that checks those boxes before it moves on to scientific review. Scientific review, which we'll talk about in a second, and strategic alignment are the 2 stages of review. So I'm not going to go into details there because that's, I think, the next slide. And then award being funded would be in May for this first cycle, the spring cycle coming up in early 2026, and November, so the end of the year for the fall cycle. So let's talk a little bit more about this section of the schematic. So those 2 review levels. So if you go to, first of all, a question that makes perfect sense, everyone's asking it, is who are on these committees? So on the REAP's website itself is a tab at the top that says research committees. So down below, if you scroll down on this page, that's where those buttons are that I just showed previously, intramural funding, et cetera. This is at the top of that page. So you'll see this button or this drop down that says research committees. So from here, you'll see 2 research committees that are listed, the Research Advisory Committee and the Research Strategy Council. So if you click on either of those, it will bring you to the full roster of those committees as they currently stand. That will be updated in real time as changes are made. And so that gives you the full picture of what these reviewing bodies look like. I'm gonna have to shrink you guys real quick. Okay, here we go. So what are the roles of these 2 committees? So this first stage of the review process is for scientific merit. And we are assembling a full study section to evaluate this portfolio of awards. So there will be a study section held typical to the NIH review process. And those scores, the ultimate scores out of the study section, will be brought to RAC, the Research Advisory Committee. So the Research Advisory Committee will look at the scores, will read the summaries from the study section, and will ultimately make their selection for funding recommendation based on those study section outcomes. So from there, that's really the scientific merit. So study section, RAC review and selection, and then ultimately funding recommendations that go to the second phase, which is the RSC strategic plan alignment check. This is a committee that will look at the selections from RAC, including summaries, brief summaries from the study section and the RAC's recommendation. They'll confirm that these projects that are recommended for funding align with strategic plans of both the division and of the institution level initiatives and strategy. And then they'll make their final selections for issuing awards and funding.
So Nicole, who's going to put together the study sections? Because those are going to have to be, kind of expertise driven.
Right. I have a slide at the end. I'm not gonna hop to it right now, but I will hit on that question at the end. Is that okay?
Yeah, we have one question in the chat. Where can we find the strategic plan that we need to align with?
Okay. The institutional strategic plan, I believe, has already been shared and is out there. The division strategic plan, the DRI strategic plan is finalized, and I believe it's in a shareable format. I don't believe it's outward facing yet. So if that's something that you'd like, we can share that as part of, or make sure that's up, you know, and available to the applicants at the time of applying. So coming up very soon. It's critical, right? Okay. Perfect. Okay. So, so that's the committees. This is the process. And for those of you familiar with NIH, which is all of you, this is meant to mimic kind of the two-phase that NIH takes. You've got your study section and then ultimately council review where the final selection's made. That was what this was modeled after. So that's the thought process behind this. Okay. So moving on then to writing SMART goals. We're doing okay on time. So SMART goals in the past have been a little bit more free form. So we tried to do what we can to standardize how people are submitting them, to make review easier from our side, but also to make it a little bit less burdensome on the applicant, because it can be a little bit of a tedious process. So we've taken a simplified approach to writing SMART goals, and I'm going to spend just a minute showing you the template that will be required for your SMART goal submission. So in general, this is some verbiage. I'm sorry, I jumped ahead. This is verbiage that's from the SMART goal template that I'll pull up in a second and we'll kind of walk through. But of course, we all are familiar with SMART goals and what they are and what they entail. We're using them all the time now. But they're intended to measure, of course, project progress, not outcome specifically, and for grants that are more than $50,000 per year, 50,000 or more per year. The SMART goals will be kind of part of the check-in at a 6-month period for the next tranche of the money to be released. If it's less than $50,000, the full funds will be released at initiation of the grant. So we're only doing the tranching that's been historically done for 50,000 or more. So we are asking our applicants to think about their SMART goals in 4 categories. So a goal could be related to logistics, getting your IRB approved, getting your animals on site, getting, you know, things like that, obtaining, so more like just getting things set up. So that would be a project logistic kind of approach or goal as you'd write. Second would be research progress, something directly related to getting the work done. I'm going to generate this data. We're going to implement this protocol. We're going to troubleshoot this piece, things like that. That could be, those are about the research progress itself. A research goal could be around, or a SMART goal could be written around dissemination. We're going to write a manuscript. We're going to go to a conference, things like that. And then finally, it could be related to future funding acquisition. So drafting a specific aims page, actually submitting a grant, things like, so it depends on where you're at in your trajectory for that research project. The last thing may not be really applicable. You know, you may not be planning to submit a grant within 1 year if you're like at the pilot phase. So maybe your grants, maybe your SMART goals are more around logistics progress and dissemination, writing the paper that you need to get the grant. So just know that that's up to the PIs to draft. You can specify up to 3 SMART goals per reporting period, but only 1 is required per reporting period. So this will be really clear once I show you the template in a second. When I kind of talk about it here, it feels a little bit ambiguous, but and just as an important note, you know, your SMART goals are part of the evaluation criteria. So make sure that they are capturing the aspects of the project as a whole. You know, if you only are submitting 1 SMART goal and it's something really nuanced and very specific and doesn't really represent progress as a whole, that may not be reviewed as a very valuable or meaningful SMART goal. So it should be some of the big indicators that you're moving in the direction you think you are to be successful and get this project complete. So let's take a look at the template real quick. This is just a screenshot of what it looks like, what the top of the template looks like, but I'm going to pull it up and we'll walk through it. Where did my Word document? Here we go. Okay. Okay. Are y'all seeing the template? Okay, perfect. So this is all fillable. with spell check built in, so you won't have to like type it outside and bring it in, because that's one thing that kills me with templates. But so this is fillable. So there's some free form boxes anywhere where it says enter or type, you can type free form. So you type your name here, but then there's some drop down. So this is all the funding mechanisms available here. You choose the funding mechanism you're writing SMART goals for. You'll notice there aren't 10 because not all of the mechanisms require SMART goals. These are the ones that do. So you choose your mechanism, and then you choose, if you did a special topics, right? That was one of those that there's 3 options for. This is where you choose which of those special interest ones you're doing. This is not applicable if you're not submitting this for special interest grant. So from there, again, this for 0 through 6 months, if this is a tranche-based release and you're writing your SMART goals for what you think you're going to accomplish in that first 6 months of the grant. So you, again, will have your category. These are the 4 categories we just talked about. So maybe my first category is logistics. I'm going to write my IRB, I'm going to get it approved, etc. So we're writing these, though, instead of SMART, we're trying to make it a little bit more simple. And you're just going to write a statement of your goal, like, and there's some guidance at the bottom. So it's a SMART goal statement. And then you'll tell me what your indicators are, what your indicators of success are, how you know if you've done it, and then any setbacks you think might come up. If you don't foresee any setbacks, it's totally fine to put NA in this box. So this is the template. I want to scroll down to the bottom because I'm doing a lot of talking, and it's going to be, when this is actually in your hands, it may be hard to recall all of the details, but there's an appendix at the end of this document that gives an example of how you complete one of these and provides more guidance. So the appendix is shown here. So this is the guidance that I kind of wanted to point out and make sure we're on the same page about. So when you're writing your SMART goal statement, this is kind of how we're asking, I'm very sorry. Okay, this is the structure of a SMART goal statement. Someone will do something by some time for these results. So in one single line, you can pretty much capture the full spectrum of SMART, more or less. So an example, here's some examples here of well-written SMART goal statements. By October 15th, I will have a draft of my specific aims page ready for feedback from my colleagues to ensure it's ready for submission by January 31st. And this is an example of how you would fill out the whole table. So here's an example where it's like a future funding acquisition. This is my SMART goal statement, how I'll know that I actually accomplished it, and then anything that I think might set me back. So in this example, I said by October 15th, I'll send a draft of my specific, this is the same one I just read up here. That's my statement of my goal. My indicators of success would be that I have my specific aims page complete. I sent an email. I followed up on that email, etc. Like, and I got feedback. So that's how I'd know I was successful. What are some setbacks? Well, some collaborators never will respond with feedback. So how do you mitigate that? I send it to multiple collaborators, plenty to where at least I'll get feedback from some number, and I feel like I've gotten enough, had enough eyes on the problem or on the document. So hopefully this appendix will help you use this SMART goal template. Again, the goal is just really to help simplify it for you, but also make it easier to review. And I think it's a little bit, it's functional. It's the way you think about goals instead of breaking it down into every single little letter of the acronym. There are some resources out there. UNT System has a resource for SMART goal help writing. I mean, there's a million resources out there. These are just 2 that happen to be within our UNT system. Feel free to use those if you need some additional guidance. Okay. So you'll notice just again that there's 2 terms because we're going to have a 6-month check-in on the grants that are 50,000 or more. So you're only required to write 1 goal per term, but you can submit up to 3 goals per term. So again, I just encourage you to think about your specific project, how you as a PI would evaluate holistically how you're progressing, where the setbacks have been, you know, things like that. So spend a little time if you're submitting on this piece. Okay. Questions about SMART goals? Paula.
So is Caroline going to be, who's going to be kind of not checking, but like somebody's got to check in for these tranches of money, et cetera.
Yes, so we loosely said a REAP representative will do the check-in. I don't know that we've actually designated who that will be, but it will be someone from the REAP office, the REAP team will be doing the check-in. Okay, so I'll just hop over here. Okay, so these are the topics that I wanted to cover, but wait, there's more. So Becky already kind of spoiled this for me, but there's one additional grant mechanism I wanted to make sure that that I bring to everyone's attention right now. I'm super excited about it. I've worked closely with UNT to help kind of pull some of this particular RFA together. And we have some plans for some activities to help connect people between our campuses for this particular award. So back to our REAP landing page. Next to the intramural funding button, there is a button now that says Interdisciplinary Team Science Award. So if we click that, that brings us to, I can actually go to the landing page in a second if we want to look at it in a little bit more detail, but I just wanted to kind of give a high level overview of this particular mechanism. So this is also an Interdisciplinary Team Science Award. So the same concept. It was built very much on the grant award mechanism we already looked at. It's just now there's a requirement for a PI at both campuses. The budgeting is because both campuses are sponsoring this award 50-50, the budget, ideally, it needs to be split 50-50 between the two campuses. So that can, I understand that can make things maybe a little bit tricky depending on the type of research you do, but that's conceptually, that's how it's going to be the cleanest for both of our divisions of research and innovation to manage those budgets, because really they're kind of like two different projects, but they're with the same focus. They're coming together to answer the same question. This is also a 1-year award, and there's 2 levels of funding. This came through a little bit small, but there's this exploratory grant. So it's kind of like a pilot grant. This is up to $50,000, again, $25,000 per campus. And this is really to launch new collaborations and generate new preliminary data for a really exciting new collaboration. So it's smaller as far as the amount of money, but we're trying to bring together, I think there's a ton of untapped opportunity. We learned at UNC Research Day last month, there's already a lot of cross collaboration going on between UNT and UNT Health that I think a lot of us were surprised of, but there's also a lot of untapped potential. So we've talked with some of their research teams and we're like, oh, why aren't we getting even, for example, there's some opportunity for forensic collaborations you maybe haven't thought about outside the box. So I think there's opportunities and we're trying to bring people together. So that's one thing that I wanted to make sure everybody leaves here with is this link. Let me see if I can copy it. Actually, I'm going to just probably have to click it and then I'll drop it into the chat. Where's my Zoom here? Okay, so this is a link for this form right here that I'm showing now on the screen. Did that show up in the chat? I think it did. Does anybody see the link? No?
We got it.
Oh, got it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So this is a survey just to identify who is interested in establishing a partner at UNT and vice versa. So this is just quickly to put your name more or less on a list, a distribution that says I'm interested. I think there's resources there I can use. And then we're going to do some things to hopefully get everybody in on a collaborative meeting, a session of sorts where we can actually discuss some of those opportunities, have some breakout rooms, things like that. Now, we don't have a ton of time because the timeline on this, as you'll see, if you click on the link provided on the website, it's, I believe, March. So, it's not a lot of time, but we're going to do what we can to hopefully identify some potential new collaborations and then also build out some existing collaborations to expand their program to where it's a project level that we can get bigger money externally for. So what this form asks for is just some information about you. Only thing that's collected is what you put in here. So if you don't want your name, I mean, you have to put in your name to be entered into the directory, but it's not pulling any data from your computer automatically. So what department you're in, what your collaboration needs are, and then any specific research interests you may have, This is loose. Again, this is really just meant to be, this was a survey actually that UNT Denton put out for their faculty. We're just adapting it here to help kind of get this directory of people so we can make some connections. So going back here, let's see. So the other award is the impact grant. That's the larger one. That's up to $100,000. So $50,000 from each campus. And this is to advance established collaborative work because it's only a year. So $100,000 within 1 year, you probably already kind of have to have a critical, a critical, I don't know, mass is not the right word, but already have some established processes and protocols. Becky spoke at Research Day about just kind of the hurdles it took to even get some of UNT students here to help with things as far as like processes and trainings and access to facilities, et cetera. So those take time, like real time. So to spend $100,000 in a year, we feel that this is best suited for people who already have a pretty functional ongoing collaboration between the two units. So that's this particular mechanism. And this will be reviewed by a hybrid study section. So it'll be 50%, 50-50, UNT Denton, UNT Health, UNT Denton. And that's kind of where we're at on this. All right. So I think that's all I have for you all. Where are we at on time? 10 minutes. Yes, Paula. I think you're muted. I'm sorry.
Got a question from the chat about, do we know what the FY 26 budget for funding REAP is?
Like the total budget?
Mhm.
We do know that, but I don't have that number. I can direct them to Caroline might be able to help, or Dr. Karamikos for sure will be able to tell what that total bucket of money is. Who did that question come from? I could look in the chat.
Hmm.
Person?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's $500,000.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Dr. Karamikos, you're cutting out.
Sorry, can you guys hear me?
Yes, that's a little bit better, yeah.
It's $500,000 for the year, and since these are 12-month long announcements, then the idea is that that will be our baseline, $500,000 investment every year.
Did that come through okay? I think $500,000 a year is our available budget for investment in these single year awards. So we don't anticipate that every mechanism will be funded every cycle. That's not likely to happen. So, but we want to fund the best work that comes in. So, we don't have like a set number of awards for each mechanism really set, so that there is a little bit of fluidness to the process in that way. Other questions?
Yeah. The question is, where can I find the link to find the collaborator? I think the link that you sent us take us to the page, and then it says find a collaborator is another link, right?
I sent a link for a form, and the form will just give me, I'm going to collect that information at the end, and I'm going to arrange for some activity is kind of the word I'm using, but one example of what Dr. Roberts at UNT has done before is like a speed collaboration session, similar to speed dating, where you kind of get on and you make your pitch about what your research is, what your resources are, things like that, to quickly identify people who might want to connect. And then we establish some breakout rooms to facilitate those conversations. So this is kind of a directory of people who are interested that we'll start trying to make connections between the two campuses. So we're trying to take an active role in this. I am trying to take an active role in this because I think scientists in general are, just maybe a little bit less excited about, sticking your neck out there and reaching out to a collaborator, or not, I shouldn't say scientists in general. Some people are. So we're trying to make sure that that process is facilitated actively. Yeah.
Okay, other questions? We got 7 minutes.
Well, I can share one just to answer your question, Paul. I didn't want to leave it hanging. You asked about study section. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is the composition of the study section as we're assembling it. And so we're working on this now. we have a pretty good start towards establishing this. So there's going to be internal reviewers, external reviewers, ad hoc reviewers as needed, and then of course we'll have a chair of the study section. And so this is just kind of a general overview of what that looks like. So we absolutely will have representation from each college. We'll have 3 individuals who will come from RAC. They can be a college representative and also a RAC representative. So there can be a little bit of dual role there. And then we plan to post a call for postdocs to give them an opportunity also to serve if they'd like to. This will be kind of a open call opportunity for learning, right, and participating in what hopefully will be conducted as kind of an NIH style study section. The external reviewers we're identifying as leaders in the biomedical field who are very familiar with study sections and the proceedings. And then ad hoc reviewers will establish at RAC as needed when we see the portfolio of applications that comes in. If we know there's a deficit in expertise, we'll bring people in specifically.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons I was asking is, at NIH, they've kind of got this database of people that can be reviewers, who've been reviewers. Are we going to try to put something like that together? I think would be, again, you need a very different person for the community engagement than you need for a team science or something.
Yes.
But
That's a great point. So what I have done is I've reached out and coordinated, been collaborating with the ADRs on this. I've asked each ADR to provide me with lists of names who they think are, a diverse list of names who represent research within their college that can go into basically kind of a pool of sorts. So we're establishing that. Again, this is all new process to us. So it's taking time to flesh out, but that's kind of the rationale.
all right. Anybody else? I feel like I ask all the questions.
You have all the good questions, Paula.
Nope. And Nicole, I have to tell you, I did send you a copy of the chat comment by the dean of what a helpful and informative presentation
Thank
this
you.
was. So.
Okay, great. That's good to know. And I need to give huge kudos and thanks to the RAC and REAP support. They've been huge and very involved in working out all the details of all these RFAs. And so it was definitely a team effort. And I did not say thank you, but I was not doing this alone, that's for sure. So
Awesome. Well, this was really, thank you so much, because I think this was really informative. And, you guys had to kind of get all this in place before you could really present it. And everybody's been, was like, oh, what's happening? What's happening?
Yeah.
Now we've got a sense of what's happening, hopefully.
Right. Yeah, no, we're super excited. I know it's a lot of big changes, but we feel like it's moving in a direction that hopefully will open up a lot of opportunities for, a broad audience of faculty and staff here on campus. So, all right. Well, thank you for having me. And if anybody has questions, again, my inbox is always open.
All right.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everybody.
Bye-bye.